Well, we got 3 episodes this Tales, woohoo, and it really is a woohoo as we now dive into an even deeper part, and we're finally introduced to Gyro Gearloose, who, just like many other characters here, got a facelift in personality, a very different personality than before. But let me tell you, it is not. It is not a single bit bad. Hi, for those who are watching, I am the Angry Anime Fan, and this is my review of episode 3 of the Ducktales 2007 episode, The Great Dime Chase. Woohoo! This episode is all about Dewey and Webb. No, it's not. It's actually all about Scrooge and Louie. Last episode, Scrooge did not have a single episode, but this episode also has a very serious side to it. A side story with Dewey and Louie, Donald, Mrs. Beakley, and well, Huey for that matter, who is the only duckling so far that does not have gotten an episode evolved around him, but I have a very big feeling he will. After all, Huey is a junior woodchuck, and I think that we one day will get an episode about that. It would be strange if we did not. But yeah, there's a side story in this episode about Dewey and Webby trying to find out the mystery of her mother. No, his mother! Damn, why am I slurring the words? What I meant to say is, we're now getting deep into the mystery. The one question that everyone has been asking: what happened to Della Duck? But first off, we're talking about the main episode. This episode is all about Louis being a slacker, so Scrooge tries to teach him the value of hard work by dragging him towards his money bin. Oh yeah, Launchpad has a quick cameo in this episode too. Well, not exactly dragged to the place, but you get my drift. Where he begins to talk about his number one dime, and we also introduced to his board of directors, who the only reason why he has them is actually because they are cheaper than he is. And here we see a lot of different arguments about Scrooge's character. Apparently, this Scrooge is not. I mean, this Scrooge is a Scrooge. He even says to Louis, "Please use the both side of the paper and stuff like that." But he also, the board of directors does say that the money bin is in the way, and the fact that apparently Scrooge spends thousands of dollars on magic items or something like that. Because apparently Scrooge has so many enemies that he has vengeance curses upon himself. This is also that's very fun. So the but this episode also introduced Gyro Gearloose, the crackpot inventor of the original series. And let me tell you, this Gyro is just a crackpot as before. However, he's completely different. The last Ducktales, Gyro was a scatterbrain and a nice guy, and was still a brilliant inventor. Probably didn't really think this through. This Gearloose is more of a insufferable genius who's not shy to admitting that yes, I am that, and even has to have cards in order to be nice. We're also introduced to his little light bulb place, robot. And it's apparently hinted that he has invented a lot of machines before that have all gone bad. So Scrooge tries to teach Louis the value of hard work. Unfortunately, Louis doesn't listen, and without thinking about it, spends Scrooge's number one dime on just a bottle of special kind of cola. So he spends the entire episode trying to get it back. One of the biggest longer gags is Louis always having to climb up the stairs, and for some strange reason still manages to catch up to the thing. And even when it seems like he has all the aces, he still lies back and be calm about it. So he decides to charm Gyro with taking the light bulb in hope of making the little light bulb open up a door where a lot of different coins are, because when he gets to a soda machine in order to get that dime back, it turns out they're emptying it. Unfortunately, little light bulb merges with the machine and get a little bit more crazy, hinting that this is the reason why he is in the villain post. And so, uh, so this episode very clearly show that Louis is a guy who doesn't really think things through. He is a guy who can work hard when he wants to. The only problem is he doesn't exactly want to. Eventually, though, Louis managed to get the dime back, and Gyro still doesn't exactly get any points. But Scrooge also has his own combat with his board of directors, who he finally managed to get the last laugh on by saying they're all crackpots, because apparently Scrooge has a lot of crackpots working for him. One is Gyro Gearloose, and one is actually a, a kooky librarian, Quackfaster. We'll get to her in a bit. So saying like they're all crazy. You don't want them having avenging everything. So no, what I mean to say is, but eventually revealed that the number one dime that Louis used to spend is not actually the dime for that Scrooge is proud with. Apparently, he currently always has his number one dime around his neck because he is his number one dime. He's not stupid enough to let it out of sight. And given what we saw in Louis, that is extremely possible. This is also very construct with his previous character. His previous character has always had that number one dime in a shrine, but now it's revealed that Scrooge, for some reason, always has it with him. He did not have it in a bath scene, though, but hey, I'm not complaining about that. Still, I wonder how is this do everyone know that Scrooge has his number one dime always on him? Well, this also shows that Scrooge is a little bit of a paranoid guy. He always has a step from everything that. The fact that the board of directors always says that you spend more like that makes me wonder. But there's a side story to this, and that is actually a very serious one. The Louis storyline is all about comedy. The Dewey and Webby storyline is all about seriousness. As Dewey tries to ask Webby, do you know anything about my mother? And even Webby, who have researched the McQuack's family, do not know anything. All she mentions is that apparently a mailman brought junk mail that was addressed to Della, and then suddenly Scrooge bought the post office, and the postman never was heard from again, or she never saw him again. They go to the library, thanks by making a lie, where they meet one of Scrooge's employers, which is Mrs. Quackfaster, the cookie librarian, who also has a very uh, personality change. She has always been Scrooge's overly nice secretary, but here she's a very crazy and a little bit sheltered librarian. She is extremely large over the top, and when it seems like Webby and Dewey are not respecting her laws, she begins to chase them around with a sword until she reveals that, well, she just tested them, or did she? She she tries to so Dewey and Webby manage to solve everything and place the orders in the right, because it turns out that Mrs. Quackfaster may be a kook, but she's also very organized. It's implied that she's actually, well, not sealed inside the library, but it's hinted that she is always at the library, which is one of the reasons why she's so crazy. Then again, Scrooge makes a comment that she's cheap and organized, and we all know Scrooge likes cheap and organized. So yes, as Gyro, Scrooge always hires the kooky ones because no one else wants them, and they're cheaper. So the Webby and the Wood Dewey manage to finally get a clue of where Della is, as they get to a place where this with scans Dewey's blood, where they see a small shrine. Well, not exactly a shrine, but a room holding a lot of different things, so to speak, including a letter that actually says, Scrooge, I've taken the spirit of Celine. I'm sorry. We cannot forget that Donald actually said that in episode 1. This is the spirit of Celine all over again. I was not responsible for the spirit of Celine. What is going on? What is Della's storyline? This is getting extremely interesting. This series is not slowing down in awesomeness. With a this episode, that's basically this episode, as the Webby and the Dewey decides to hold everything secret. This episode channels it all. It has heart, it has comedy, and most of all, it has drama. It combines all of them. As I said before, Louis' storyline and the Scrooge storyline is extremely funny, And Gyro, even though his insufferable genius here, he's still an entertainment. Even he, even he has a last line, which is actually very strange, when he goes through notes saying like Gyro is robot, where he reaches, where he writes his project Blatherskite, which we all know is and implying that he's going to build a Gizmo duck suit. This episode also seems to imply that it's Gyro who has the blathering skite as a catchphrase, and not Fenton, who we know is apparently an assistant to, you know, Gyro. So, but yeah, the Della storyline is getting extremely interesting. What is her story? The fact that she's an unperson, there's not a single record about her, and the only thing Donald has said about her to his nephews is that she's gone. Where's she gone? Has she turned into another person, aka Magika the spell? I mean, I'm just showballing here. Or is there something much deeper to it? I have a feeling by the end of this season, we will finally know the truth. But yeah, drama and comedy all in all. Ducktales, woohoo, truly. What do you think about this episode? I give it an A. Give me your thoughts if you have any.